Hey, what's up YouTube? You are at another Multi-Tool Monday. Welcome to my review of this, the Roxon Multi-Tool. The Multi-Tool with big-ass shears. They now have this on Amazon, so I'll include a bunch of links in the text description box. Oh, and by the way, you are at the We All Juggle Knives channel, which also covers multi-tools. Alright, what does this have on it? It has the kitchen sink. No, it's got a lot of stuff. Alright, let's go through the tool set. It's got one-handed opening on the knife blade, and it does lock. You see it's a liner lock there. Yeah, the blade came sharp, as I will demonstrate. It's also got one-handed opening on a saw, but that does not lock. Boo! No, just kidding. It's got pliers with a wire cutter. Yes. Unfold all the things. Oh, I will. It's got really large shears, which are... I mean, that's the best part of this multi-tool, I would say. I tested them quite a bit. That's a bottle opener for you alcoholics. And a corkscrew. Yeah, I would replace that with something else, but we'll talk about that. Oh, yes. All right, there's a can opener. Sorry, I don't use can openers, but I'll show it. That is a line cutter, sometimes called a rescue cutter, or just a cutting hook. Someone said gut hook. I'm not sure if they intended that. That is a nail puller, and they also called it a hook disgorger. It's got the glass breaker. It's a good idea to put it at the end there. That's a file. It's a two-sided file, and then the tip can be used to scrape, or as a screwdriver, or a little pry thing. Alright, and now this screwdriver locks. It's a Phillips screwdriver, but it also serves as a shank for the bit kit. Here is the bit kit. This bit kit is a very good idea because it can take that. They don't have to waste slots on a whole bunch of dedicated drivers. As you can see, the adapter, there's a magnet, fits over that. And the magnet prevents the bit from falling and the adapter from falling off the shank. It's a good idea. So that is the tool set. That's quite a lot of tools. They were very ambitious. Overall, I mean, this is what we call the classic toolbox approach. You know, in previous episodes, I spelled out the difference between a minimalist tool, like say the Leatherman Skeletal, and the toolbox, which tries to cram as much stuff as possible, such as my Leatherman Surge, which has quite a lot of options. This is the toolbox approach. So, is it missing anything? Well, it does not have a reamer, and it does not have a serrated blade, so you can't say it has everything, but yeah, almost everything. Alright, here's the size comparison. You got the Leatherman Charge, the Roxon, Leatherman Super Tool 300, an excellent tool by the way, and last, my VICTORINOX Outrider. Alright, so it's not the longest, it's wider at one end, it's fairly bulky. This is the sheath that it came with. It's got loops on the back for horizontal or vertical carry. It's a fairly thick, sturdy sheath compared to most you would get. It's got Velcro on the front. It holds your multi-tool. It also holds the bit kit. Alright, so as I said, it's a fairly thick and sturdy sheath compared to the cheaper stuff on Amazon, definitely. Here's a shears versus scissors comparison. Alright, so you see, this is the kind of the whole point of this multi-tool. If it didn't have the shears, I probably wouldn't have cared about it at all. As you can see, they are big, very big. Now, the super tool over there, a fine tool, but it does not have scissors. So, but as you can see, yeah, the shears outgun a lot of the scissors, the normal scissors you would get on a multi-tool. Alright, let's demonstrate some stuff. First, let's do the shears. Starting off with easy stuff, and then going into thicker stuff. Yeah, it'll cut paper. They came sharp. If you're in an office somewhere, you pussy. No, I'm just kidding. White collar jobs are totally legit. You can make bank, yo. Alright, folded the paper up. There you go. That's not really a challenge for it, this paper. Yeah, one thing I like about shears, they're easy to use when you're wearing gloves. If you're wearing work gloves, for example, gardening gloves, whatever. Alright, here it is on some nasty-ass cardboard. It does pretty well on that as well. You see how thick that cardboard is there. All right, doing well so far, but will it take out the paracord? It does surprisingly well on the paracord. If you've followed the channel, you've seen many multi-tool scissors fail on the paracord. Just had a Gerber that could not do the paracord a month or so ago. This does. Now, you got to cut it towards the end. Right? If you do cut it like down there, it stumbles. Right? But if you cut it towards the end, behold, it dominates the paracord. Yeah, so I like these shears so far, but will they be able to cut through a trachea? No, I'm just kidding. No trachea testing. YouTube has been stern about that. All right, this is some plastic binding that you sometimes get on a package. Yeah, the plastic binding is very easy for it. I'm going to spend a lot of time on these shears, by the way, just because if these don't work, then the tool would be pointless. So, all right, here it is, cutting some bike tubing into Ranger bands. Now, this is where your wife walks in and she's like, "Are you watching a guy cut up a rubber tube in his backyard?" And you're like, "I'm doing important internet research for preparedness. I'm protecting our family." And she's like, "Are you buying more multi-tools on Amazon? You already have enough tools." And you're like, "Hey, listen, lady, this is for your own good. We're making bug out bags." And she's like, "You know, you have a whole garage full of real tools. Do you really need another multi-tool?" And you're like, "Stop making sense. I want a divorce." No, I'm just kidding. Hopefully that does not happen to you, but it probably does. All right. Oh, here it is, gardening. I'm not much of a gardener myself, but actually a lot of the prepper viewers have their self-sufficient victory gardens and stuff like that. Hey, that's cool. Yeah. Oh, don't worry about this this vegetation. All right, it grows back very fast. I test machetes on it and everything. Don't give me any crap about, "Oh, you hate nature." I love nature, dude. But yeah, if you need to prune your rose bushes or whatever, this will suffice. And I didn't comment on the rubber tubing. It did excellent on the rubber tubing. So if you need to make Ranger bands, you're good. Here is the glass breaker. Now that's supposed to be tungsten alloy. Now if that's really tungsten, then you should be able to smash it against this cinder block, and the tungsten should not be deformed or blunted at all. All right, so let's see. It's got some cinder block blood and guts on it, but yeah, it maintained its shape perfectly well. It's still just as pointed. All right, so I would say that really is tungsten. Very hard substance, and yeah, that has some self-defense application as well. I had some requests from subscribers to show cutting of 3-strand copper wire like this. I guess some people use this stuff at work. All right, well, it can easily cut the copper wire. Copper is pretty soft compared to steel. And those wire cutters, they were even sharpened. I could see that they had, not just cast them, but sharpened them specifically. All right, here's the 3 strands. And because they are sharp, it will also cut through the rubber around the wire. But yeah, people wanted to see how easily can it cut that stuff. Pretty easily. Yes, cut all the things. Smash all the things. All right, coming up, the bit kit, the screwdriver. Oh, that's my Kershaw Cam 12. Check out my review of that. All right, so I'm really glad they made this lock in place, because non-locking screwdrivers, my subscribers call that a knuckle scraper or a knuckle bruiser. So good job on that. Because this takes the bit kit, they don't have to waste slots on dedicated drivers. So that's good. All right, so yeah, you want to take the scales off your Kershaw Cam 12. This will do the job and do it right. All right, line cutter. This did surprisingly well. Like half the cutting hooks on multi-tools just seem not to work, but this actually will cut that. I've heard from a few people that said they use a cutting hook like this to open like hard plastic packaging, in a safer way that you won't damage the contents. Well, that's a good idea. That's good thinking. I mean, never lock yourself into one use of a multi-use tool like this. All right, here's the saw. Now, I felt like I had to apply more force to get the same result with this saw as compared to, like, let's say a saw on one of my Victorinox folding knives. All right, but nonetheless, the saw is usable. The saw does not lock, so a couple times I had to reposition the saw. You pull it out and it starts to fold, so it was a bit inconvenient that it didn't lock. So overall, this saw, I would give it about, I would say it's usable. I'd give it like an average rating, or like maybe like a C+ rating. But I will say that most of your saplings or things you might saw are a lot softer than the firewood. Alright, so after about 52 seconds of sawing, you got those two grooves. As I said, usable, not the fastest saw I've ever used, and I wish they could make it lock. But it's alright. It's alright for small jobs, which by definition, if you have a little tiny folding saw, it is for small jobs. You can also use this saw as a striker. Here's my fire steel. As you can see from the mushrooms that are attacking my like stump table over there, it was very damp. It's been very damp lately, but nonetheless, we can eventually start the fire. And someone said I should use the old trick with like the cotton balls and like an accelerant on the cotton balls. Yeah, I do know that trick, but in this case, I'm really just trying to show how many sparks it produces. I'm not trying to race you. It's not a race, man. Stare into the fire. What do you see? I see a wall of ice. Why did they take so long to make the last season? Alright, now, anyway. Oh, by the way, if you like in-depth reviews, please check out the Amazon links and do your normal shopping through them in the text description box. Those do help out the channel financially because YouTube, Google itself, they don't pay jack lately unless you unless you're one of these bikini girls. So, all right, here's gripping things with the pliers. Yeah, I tested out the pliers just by gripping stuff, grabbing stuff, and I gotta repeat my warning about multi-tool pliers. I've never reviewed any major brand of multi-tool, major brands multi-tool, where I didn't get contacted by people who had managed to break the pliers. And that includes Leatherman, that includes the best brands. So I really can't recommend multi-tool pliers for anything but light or moderate use. Because just the fact is, if you work with your hands a lot, your grip strength can break most multi-tool pliers if you try. Alright, welcome to the alcoholic portion of the review, the best part of any review. Oh, I gotta warn you, I'm not a wine drinker. I drink either beer, rum, occasionally vodka. So I don't know. I went to a very sketchy liquor store in my town, and I bought the cheapest possible bottle of wine that had a cork in it. I don't usually demonstrate this stuff on a multi-tool, but, you know, they put so much effort into putting that corkscrew. That's the bottle opener, and that's some hard cider. We got so many hard cider companies up in New England. Yeah, you know, they've learned that hard cider is more profitable than just your normal apple cider. All right, so there's the corkscrew. Like I said, I don't drink wine. I'm not the best person to even demo a corkscrew, but whatever. You brace that part against the bottle, gives you leverage, you pull the cork out, and then you just drink your problems away. Yes, it's pain go bye-bye juice, as they say. All right, mad skills right there. Prepare to be offended.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I managed to break the cork. Oh, by the way, trigger warning if you're like a wine snob, you're really offended I broke the cork. I do my trigger warnings differently. I do them after the fact. It's just my thing. All right, so the corkscrew worked well if you do, which I don't. Here is the blade. Check this out. Initial sharpness. I was surprised. Were you surprised? You probably were. Yeah, you know, this actually had a real edge. Here it is on some cardboard. This actually had a real edge. Most off-brand multi-tools, they don't even have a real edge. I mean, the geometry is all messed up. You'll get like just a narrow hollow grind with a bevel that's twice as thick as it should be on most of these off-brand tools. This one, I can tell you, somebody at the factory actually knew what a knife edge was, which is surprising in a good way. Yeah, it came sharp. I mean, they didn't just put something that kind of sort of looked like an edge. They ground a real edge onto it, and then I could tell they sharpened it after that. All right, so I got to give credit where credit is due, because the edge on this, way better than the edge on most off-brand multi-tools. And it's kind of a stubby little blade, so it would have been easy for them to mess that up, but they didn't. Alright, here's the file. It's kind of a short file, using a rusty nail so you can easily see the bits that got filed. Alright, so there you go. You see the little shiny parts. And the other side, it's got different texture patterns on each side, like one is cross-hatch, and no, there's no diamond coating. Alright, the file doesn't lock either. That don't matter. Now, some people ask, you know, can it do really hard steel? You know, probably not, but still useful for plastic and softer stuff. All right, there was a problem with the nail puller, as you see there. Now, that first nail, it does okay on the first nail, but I gotta say, that first nail was already loose. That was an easy nail. All right, let me show you a close-up of the problem. Look at that side-to-side play. Substantial side-to-side play, right, on the pivot of that tool. And also, the steel, look how much I can bend it just with my finger, because the steel is fairly thin and fairly flexible, right? And also, this tool does not lock. And those three factors made it bad on a tougher nail. It tends to slip. Right, and you can see there why it would be better if it had a lock, because then you wouldn't have to worry about folding it as you're trying to get an angle. But I tried it at every angle, and even with the lack of the lock aside, even if it had a lock, the side-to-side play was just too much, and the flexibility of the steel, and those just made it not work very well. What would I change about this multi-tool? Well, look how much space the corkscrew takes up. It's taking up 2 slots. I would replace the corkscrew, right? I would replace the corkscrew with a serrated blade like you see on that super tool. I would try to make the file longer and just a better file, as you see the file on my Leatherman Charge. I would try to make the file better. I would remove that nail puller, and I would have the nail puller just be a completely separate piece, like the Gerber shard, because then they could make it thicker and it wouldn't have the side-to-side problem. And they should just make that nail puller a separate piece that just fits in the sheath. Now, if you remove the corkscrew, you got 2 free slots, so you have enough room for a serrated blade, and you could also add a reamer awl, as you see on my Victorinox there. That's what I would change to improve the tool. And I think they would sell a lot better if they made those changes. So final thoughts on this multi-tool. Does it work, like overall? We understand it's not perfect, but does it work for the price? Yeah, because all the important parts work. Like the main thing about this is the shears. The shears were excellent. The bit kit with the locking driver, that's also very useful. The pliers, as I said, you got to be really careful with multi-tool pliers, but they're fine for light or moderate work. The blade was actually sharp with legit edge geometry, so the blade was good, one-handed opening. The saw was usable, but it would be improved by a lock, but still it gets a C+ rating. The file is a bit short. I would prefer a full-size 3-sided file, but it's still usable for plastic, soft metal. Right? So basically, all the parts that you would actually care about are either excellent or at least passable. And the things that don't work so well are things you wouldn't really care about. Like me personally, I don't care about the can opener either way. I've heard some people say it doesn't work that well. Doesn't really matter to me or most people. The nail puller, none of my Leathermans even have a nail puller, so even a crappy nail puller will work better than zero nail puller, so I don't really care that much about that. You have to judge everything relative to its price. It was around like $48. All right, so I can't even compare it to any of the main line of Leatherman, because currently even the rebar, if you get the blackout rebar, that's $70. My Leatherman Wave, when I got it, I believe it was about $100. The Surge was about $105. So if those are worth that, is this multi-tool worth slightly under $50, which was its price? I would say yes. I mean, if somebody, the Leatherman Leap, again, their children's tool, that's around $40 right now. So if someone said, I'll either give you a choice, you can have the Roxon tool and the bit kit, or you can have a Leatherman Leap and $10. Which would you choose? Well, I would definitely choose the Roxon in that situation. It has just a lot more capabilities. It's reasonable for the price. It's a heck of a lot better than many off-brand tools I've seen. We've seen some craptastic tools on here that, they were $20, but they weren't worth $10. This is worth it for the price. They took a little more care in making this. The scissors, the knife blade, and even the wire cutters were all sharpened extra. They didn't just stamp them out. They stamped them, they ground them, and then they sharpened them, as you might. I do think it would sell a little better if they made those changes I suggested, or if they just, knocked $10 off the price. But still reasonable for the price. All right, and they do have some other tools. I noticed that they came out with a minimalist tool, which is just a larger knife blade, which is just as sharp as this one because I have it, and also the shears. All right, so I'll include a link to that. Check out the Amazon links. They do support the channel. I bought this tool. They did not send it to me. I've never spoken to them, actually. So I bought this as you would. And I feel I got my money's worth. I'm going to keep it. I don't feel I was ripped off at all. I feel I got my money's worth. So that's my opinion. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. Check out my other videos. Stay tuned for more Multi-Tool Mondays. Check out the links. Remember to keep hiding your multi-tool and knife addiction from your lovely wife. This has been We All Juggle Knives. I'm out.